Give them a shot to do what?
Bert, I want to start to say that there's not a better time in Florida sports history in between making it to title games, but doing it as eighth seeds, the Panthers and the Miami Heat, true underdogs. And the cherry on top is as they float on the rivers of the to the promised land, those rivers were made by the tears of all the fans in Boston. Just magical.
Yep.
Just magical. Boston, long history of the worst fans in the world, possibly the worst people in America. Couldn't be happier to see that dog shit city get what they deserve. Bill Simmons, Dave Portnoy, my longtime close friend Steve Zuccari. Fuck all of you. Even though I know all of the fans of the Miami Heat were definitely shitting their pants.
Yeah. Sports.
I got to stop doing that, man.
You're good. Hey, you stopped it perfectly. I was going to agree with you 100% because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Not a basketball fan, but someone rooting for the Heat. I was nervous. I was like, let's see what happens. But I don't know why, because I mean, shit, after the second quarter, I was like, yeah, they got this. So what was it? The closest they came was like what, an 8-point deficit, something like that. And no, they went to 10.
It wasn't. I mean, the first Jason Tatum gets hurt the first play of the game. I mean, and from there on, it was just kind of like, whatever. So we'll get to Boston. Not really about the Miami Heat making it to the finals. There's plenty, the games on Thursday. We'll talk about that, another show. Because honestly, I don't think Miami stands a chance. I don't think Denver stood a chance. It didn't really matter who won this game. I don't think either one of them stand a chance versus Denver, but I didn't think that 2 8th seeds would make it to the, title games between the Panthers and Florida Panthers in hockey and the Miami Heat. So shout out to Florida sports. We're going to talk about the Oakland Athletics. They're now going to be moving to Vegas, but there's some controversy. There's some conspiracy theories happening between. I hate when this loop is on. Conspiracy theory between owner John Fisher and the things he's doing to kind of trick Nevada legislation. So we'll just get into the whole mess, and then the fact that they're bad too. Like everything is just not. It's just bad for, and I feel bad for Oakland fans. And then we'll predict the Stanley Cup finals to close the show. So Bert, first thing though, AI's taking over the universe, and I want you. I asked Chat GPT to give me the top 10 NFL fan bases, and I'm going to start sprinkling these in the show, and I want you to guess. Okay, fan bases, not teams, not most rich teams, just the best fan bases. However, they determine to be those. I'm guessing it's tradition, history, sales, whatever, TV ratings, things like that nature. So go ahead and tell me what you think are the top 5. I have the top 10 list. Tell me who you think are the top 5 NFL fan bases.
In no particular order, the Cowboys fan base has to be up there.
Number 2,
Oakland or Vegas Raiders.
Not in the top 10.
Damn, really? Pats.
Number 4.
Bills.
Number 10. I was upset. Yeah.
Wow, not in the top 5.
Think recent resurgence, like dominant in the last, couple years.
Oh, dominant in the past couple. I mean, Kansas City.
Number 5.
Green Bay up there.
Number 1.
So I'm just missing one.
Number 3. You're missing the number 3 team. Another. I'll give you AFC and another historic team. long-standing tradition of winning. Not recently, but
Ooh, an AFC. Man, I know I had Denver on my mind, but
Denver, number 7. They don't have many coaches.
they don't have many coaches.
Yeah, they've had like 3 coaches in our lifetime, maybe
Jags?
2 actually. No, like the coaches stay there a long time. Pittsburgh, number 3, which is, and I look at the list, I'm like, man, that kind of makes. I'm surprised that Kansas City's on there because I don't know. I don't know. Just I think
They
it's
got
a lot
some
of
history.
recency
They got
bias.
some,
Right. Yeah, I guess so.
Joe
I guess so.
Montana,
Yeah. So number 6 was the Seattle Seahawks. 7 was the Broncos. Number 8 was the Philadelphia Eagles. 9 was the New Orleans Saints, and 10, my beloved Buffalo Bills, rounding up that top 10 spot. So it was just interesting to find, I think out of all the top 10, I was shocked that Seattle was up there. But
yeah, I think that's the one that's in my mind right now. Like I get it. They're loud. But for me, I mean, it's tough for me to not even see like the Niners fan base or even the Raiders. I mean, the black hole. I mean, that's insane to me. I'm not completely surprised that the Giants and Jets aren't there. Bird fans.
Do you think that has something to do with? I think that has something to do with they're not haven't been good like in a long time. Like really, I mean, Raiders haven't been good in a long time. Like
I think there is something to that.
So long enough for like a team like the Seahawks to get in there. Even the Saints, like, I mean, well, actually, I believe it with the Saints because when Katrina was around, I mean, that just the way their run happened, shocked how that whole thing was in terms of getting them, getting them to dominance. So, moving off of that, the Boston Celtics lost in Game 7. They almost completed the historic comeback of coming down 3-0, and I couldn't be happier. But that's not to say, Bert, because we were in the group chat all week. Like, Boston, the NBA, Adam Silver, Adam Fraudver. I don't know. I gotta come up with something. I gotta come up with something with Adam Silver. Fraudum Silver. There we go. They wanted Boston to win this damn series. I mean, there's nothing, and they tried. They had Tony Brothers and Scott Foster. For those who don't know, they were the worst referees of all time, and the worst for the Miami Heat, because this season, the Boston Celtics were 14-0 when Scott Foster officiated their games. The Heat were 1-9. And that was leading into the game. Obviously, that changed with this game. I think the Heat are 2-13 over the past 2 seasons with Foster and Tony Brothers refereeing together. So it was awful. The fact that they did that and they tried, they just couldn't overcome Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin out of nowhere. All of a sudden turning it on. I mean, you can't really stop great offensive output. So what made it, but that's not the story. The story is not the Heat winning. The story is the Boston Celtics losing.
Yeah.
Couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier that Dave Portnoy, that doof, Bill Simmons' sad face. I wish I should have photoshopped a picture of Bill Simmons' big goofy head in the corner of this podcast, so we could just stare at his dumb face.
Dude, any Boston face that there is, and as much as I love his movies, Mark Wahlberg, Donnie Wahlberg. I mean, any Wahlberg, like, I mean, you put him there and just like, I know you're the epitome of Boston, but me in particular, is being a New York sports fan, but I think any sports fan, whenever we see Boston lose, we're like, all right, let's go. That's fine. We're tired of you all winning everything, so knock it off. But I think for me, here's what's so weird about this whole thing. And look, the Heat played an abysmal Game 5. So they kind of deserve to lose that game. I will say, so when Denver and Miami were both up 3-0.
Yeah.
Axios, I get their newsletter, their sports newsletter.
Nice.
Kendall Baker's phenomenal and summing everything up that I need to know sports-wise that happened the night before. But they actually wrote this really interesting piece about both teams in, sweep formation, if you will. And the interesting thing that they said is, and I didn't think much of it then, but certainly do now, is that was a nightmare scenario for the NBA and their TV partners. Why? Because they're losing millions of dollars if both teams would have swept and would have been done earlier in the week. This includes broadcast deals. I mean, Disney and Turner raked in $842.4 million in sales during the 2022 NBA postseason. So for every time they're not playing, to not get the advertising deals or the spots or anything, it's costly for the NBA and their TV partners. But it's also costly for the teams who make millions per home game on tickets, concessions, parking. And of course, that will serve. They even wrote that'll serve as motivation for the lethargic-looking Celtics to try to send the series back to Boston. So when I was watching it unfold in Game 6, going, "Oh my God," I'm like, "The script is written. It's happening. They're putting their revenue first." Like, it's just you don't come across a coincidence like this. And then, of course, you watch the Game 7 that happened last night, and you're like, "Oh, this is how it was supposed to be 2 games ago," but it didn't. So is there a script? Was it all for the money? Like, what's happening here, NBA?
Yeah. Draymond Green on his podcast killed the fans, said, "You guys are the rudest fans I've ever seen. I'm so happy.
Really?
I'm glad that we didn't get to see you in the finals." Draymond Green, I'm not the biggest Draymond Green guy, but stuff like that is hilarious. Like, it's just he could never play for another team other than the Warriors, because I think he's shit on every single fan base outside of his own, and I'm sure he's shit on his own at some
easily
point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, even through the whole series, it just felt like the NBA wanted the Celtics to win. I mean, there were just some calls against Miami that were, Boston at one point, I think it was like Game 3 or 4. Boston had damn near 3 times the foul calls that Miami got. And I was just like, what is happening here? Jimmy Butler's hitting the ground almost every time he's attacked the rim. And yet, the referees are swallowing their whistles, but let Grant Williams get touched barely on his elbow. They gave Boston a shooting foul on a drive the other night, and Bam Adebayo literally did the same thing the next play, and they didn't do anything. And it was Bam's contact was way worse. So, and I get the players flop, and it's hard to kind of call that type of stuff, but some of it was just obvious to me.
So you think Miami doesn't stand a chance in the finals?
Denver's just been dominant all season, man. And really,
you don't think there's the smallest spark where they can give them trouble? You think it's going to be 4-1 or 4-2? What are we looking at?
I think Miami can get a game. My issue is Bam Adebayo has to have a great offensive series, because he's not defensively. There's nothing he can do with Joker, but Joker's slow. So if Bam can bring him away from the rim and kind of create his own shots and try to get Jokic away from the rim and be a good passer, which, to Bam's credit, he's really good at doing. He can actually bring the ball up and create offense. Great. He needs to do that probably 20 feet from the basket and give some of these other guys chances to get behind Jokic and tire him out, essentially. But on the defensive side, Bam is a great defender, but Jokic is, as we've seen, pretty much unstoppable. I mean, this guy was hitting one-footed floaters over Anthony Davis, who's like 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think Denver is just too deep, too good. I don't think, and then Denver still has Jamal Murray, who arguably has been Denver's most best and consistent player outside of like 1 or 2 monster Joker games. But Jamal Murray's been more consistent. He's been giving them 30 pieces damn near every game, even when Jokic hasn't, offensively, done his share. So it'll be interesting to see, how Eric Spoelstra, who deserves way more credit as an all-time great coach, than he's getting, how he messes with the matchups to try to get these guys in a position to win. I think he can do it. Miami, I shouldn't say no chance, because Miami, the 8th seed, is in the NBA Finals. They knocked off the Bucks, the Celtics. I'm not going to sit here. I shouldn't say no chance. There's obviously a chance, because they shouldn't be here. And so it's the other Florida team I don't give a chance to, but we'll get to them a little bit later.
Okay. Has Spoelstra coached a Heat or an NBA team in this position in the finals before, being an underdog like this? Because you got to remember when they were big three, I don't ever remember them being in an underdog position. They were out front and center and dominant.
Yeah, because even the bubble year when they made it to the finals, they were a top 3 or 4 team in the East. I want to say they were a top 2 team. Like they were, I think in the bubble they weren't a low seed, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I mean the one stat that jumped out to me is the Miami Heat since 2006 has the most final appearances in the NBA. Now, again, a lot of that has to do with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. They went to 4, but to have 3 without them since then is pretty amazing. And so I will give credit to where credit is due when it comes to Erik Spoelstra and that team, and Jimmy Butler just being amazing, just being an amazing player overall has been pretty nice to watch.
We can't mention Jimmy without mentioning their undrafted unsung heroes too, though. I mean, you mentioned Caleb Martin before too.
Yep.
So you have to it's basically the island of misfit toys coming together for the greater good, right?
Yeah, Caleb Martin, Max Strus is another one. But here's the genius of Pat Riley, right? Gabe Vincent's the other one, and I think Duncan Robinson, who was the first, like he had a $55 million 4-year deal as an undrafted player, which is crazy.
They had it was 9 undrafted players on the roster. From what I'm looking at, those 9 players scored 33.8% of Miami's points and played 46% of minutes in the regular season alone. Now, granted, I mean, a lot of people out there are like, yeah, but they were an 8 seed. But hey, you have to be in it to win it. And when you have that many undrafted players on there that are making an impact to get you there and then performing once you get into the playoffs too, it's insane. Yeah,
I mean, we talked about this a few shows ago that are Miami setting the trend that it doesn't matter what seed you get. Just get to the playoffs and turn it on. You know what I mean? The New York Giants did done that twice. Did it twice and won the whole thing. So just get to the playoffs and trust your coaching, trust your players, and trust your process. And good things should happen for you if you have all the right things. Obviously, there's a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of getting hot at the right time and things like that. So Florida Panthers actually proven that a little bit more than the Miami Heat. But it's just amazing, just South Florida sports in general. Having a moment, Bert. You know who's not having a moment?
Who?
The Oakland Athletics.
Oh no. Nope.
It started a few weeks ago or I guess a few months ago, when there was rumblings of the team being moved. Cool. Those things happen. They're a bad team. Bad teams typically are the ones, they don't move the good teams, Bert. But, then all of a sudden it was Vegas this, Vegas that, Vegas this. And then all of a sudden here's some they just dropped the bomb. Yeah, man, we're going to Vegas without actually having the things secured to move to Vegas. And then obviously, they work out the agreement for the stadium. That's a big piece. Nevada legislators still have to technically vote on it because a lot of that's going to come down to voter tax dollars, right? People who live there will probably have to fund most of this thing because the Oakland Athletics don't have a lot of money. Then you have the broadcaster, Glenn Cooper, who got fired a few weeks ago for saying the N-word league instead of the Negro League. Plain as day. Like didn't even stumble. He just said it.
Yeah. And so much so where his partner, I don't even think thought twice about it until it was brought up because he had no reaction on his face either.
Yeah. So, I mean, it should. And then on top of the fact that they're like 10-99 or whatever they are, like some awful record, one of the worst records since the 1800s. Bert, the Oakland Athletics professional baseball team.
Yep.
A week and a half ago had 10 people in the stands for a home game. Not a random 10 a.m. game like the Mets be having. It was like a 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock their time game. Like it was like a afternoon game where People weren't at work. Like they just chose not to go to the game. 10 people. So quiet in there that players were actually interacting with fans. And the guy said it was worse than the bubble because, or not the bubble, but COVID. Because remember, for a while they had like plastic people. Like
the Mets did their cardboard cutouts.
People did it. But he said it was worse because these were like people in the stands were like workers or whoever.
Yeah,
they knew to be quiet. Like these are actual like rowdy, upset fans. Like it was just, he said it was just weird. It was very weird. So I feel so terrible for this guy, and that John Fisher, the owner, he's trying to play this game. He's basically trying to put lipstick on a pig, trying to sell, hey, it's the fans' fault that this team isn't doing well. Even though he's treated this team like a minor league team for years.
Yes.
And it just, any player that they have that's good, they sell. But then he raises prices for parking. He raises prices for concessions. What are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, and a large portion of the trip up with coming to an agreement with Oakland was that they honestly, it was something where they couldn't agree on obviously building a new stadium within Oakland, but also who was going to pay for it. And then it ultimately went to a vote. And unfortunately, everybody's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. It's not happening. And what do? They look for a new home and they're going to go to Vegas. And I do feel bad for the fans. I've never been in a position being in the New York metro area and rooting for New York teams. I've never been in a position, and selfishly, I don't think I will be in a position to watch any of my teams relocate just by nature of our fan base and where we are. But I couldn't imagine rooting for a team for years, decades, for them to be like, hey, we're moving. And obviously your fandom will go with, but to not be able to see, or you look at it the other way. Hey, I could be one of those 10 fans in the arena. Which I would love to experience, to be honest with you.
That'd be cool.
I may get a plane ticket out to Oakland just to go experience it, but we should
go.
It is not good. Now we should, right?
That'd be awesome.
Here's what gets it a little bit spicier. So as they work out the Vegas deal, because it's not a done deal, they have the proposed, they still have to go through different votes. There's now some scrutiny over, Oakland's owner about trying to get past some legislators and kind of go a back way in. If this deal with Vegas falls through, they will still not return to Oakland. They've come out. They basically come out and said they're going to look for a new home. They have no interest in staying in Oakland.
Well, I mean, they can't, right? Like he's already tried to force his way out essentially anyway. So the only thing that's been constant, the only thing that's been real about this entire process is that the guy doesn't want to be in Oakland, and he's desperately trying to get out, to the point where, again, he's going. It reminds me of when the Raiders left Los Angeles to come to Oakland. It was kind of the same deal. They did some things with the arena. They refused to update any of the amenities. They refused to lower prices. In fact, they raised them again, and they tried to sell this team on money that they weren't making. Bert, did you know that Oakland? Now, I'm sure San Francisco, that Bay Area, I'm sure the San Francisco Giants have a lot to do with ratings, but they're the 10th largest market in terms of viewership and for baseball.
Wow.
Vegas is 40th. So you're going from a top 10 viewing market to a top, not even top 40, number 40. There's no other reason other than billionaire owners want this team in Vegas. Yeah. And it's just, they're going to go. Simple as that. And it's odd because you look at the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, who have terrible attendance.
Yeah.
The Aces have been good for 4 years. Their attendance is pretty good. And then the Golden Knights, who are a fresh, brand new team, the Athletics are still going to be at best the third best team in Vegas if they go. So, I mean, they're going to be behind the Knights and the Las Vegas Aces and the WNBA. They may leapfrog. Baseball may do better than football in Vegas. I don't know. I know that the Raiders don't have great attendance in that big old Death Star they have out there. But I had Yeah, Vegas is literally the smallest market in Major League Baseball for baseball in terms of the Nielsen ratings, like the people who monitor TV, who's watching what, where. Vegas literally has the smallest. So, another fun fact I picked up for you, Aaron Boone, 4 ejections on the season.
Yeah.
Oakland Athletics starting pitching wins, 2. It's bad.
It is. And honestly, it's so bad that attendance wise for Oakland, I mean, obviously we just said there were 10 fans, but even before that, there were only, I think at one point, maybe 1,500 or something crazy. In one of the games, shortly after the announcement was made, fans just stopped going. There was more attendance at a minor league stadium in the Oakland area than there was at the Major League one. I don't have specifics, but anecdotally, that's what I can say too. I think here's why I think attendance wise, they're going to be in better shape in Vegas because there's so much holidaying traffic there. They're just going to get, and honestly, Raiders attendance, you got to figure they play 1 day a week. It's on Sunday, and you have to be a fan of football to want to go watch a football game. Baseball, I mean, they play so many times. You'll have people in and out. Hey, let's go catch a game. Let's go do this. I think that'll obviously help add to it. It's now become even more of it's more of an international sport than football is right now anyways. American football. So it might help draw some more, some more visitors there, not to Vegas, but at least to a new baseball stadium if it's there as well. I know it'll make Vegas worth going back for me because God knows that place has taken enough of my money in casino. So I'm sure I'll go just for the sports now. I don't care. But yeah, it's going to be interesting if that's where they end up. Right. I will say stadium proposal looks nice.
Oh, it's
but
nice.
The renderings are always good too, right? But I mean, man, it looks like if they do this right, they will certainly knock it out of the park, pun intended.
Yeah, they listen. It's gonna be nice. Again, look at the Raiders stadium. I mean, you're going to a city like Vegas. It's going to look nice, but the team that can't generate $2 million in revenue is going to somehow take up the 35-acre lot of Bally Sports, where they're going to have to knock down their own casino, which I'm assuming makes more than $2 million a year. Maybe. Again, obviously, it would be different if the Athletics were good, but I'm going to try to give Fisher some credit here and say this has been a multi-year plan where he has purposely driven the value of this team down to the fans, not in general. I think any major league team is worth something, but driving it down to make this play, because that's how teams get moved. The Cowboys can't move because they're the Cowboys. They have this cachet. You're not going to move a good team. Like Buffalo was flirting with the idea. When Buffalo was getting their new stadium, Bert, there was legit talks that because the people didn't want to pay for it so bad that the owner was going to take them out of Buffalo. And I was like, not a chance in hell. He will never do that. And he didn't. They figured out a compromise, and I get negotiations and things of that nature. But to sit there but this guy, I mean, if Terry Pagula traded Josh Allen after, that, then I'd be like, oh my God. But like here's the other thing, Bert, there's still good players on the Athletics. They have good players. It's just that team is just so downtrodden, and I can't. And then you would make this announcement. What are the players are supposed to do? How can they play? And you've basically nuked your entire fan base. Your relationship with your entire fan base. And then now you want your players to go out there and play in front of 10 people, you can't even get, I mean, you don't have enough people you just fill in a row. Like they're just scattered. It's sad, man. Go on Twitter. Go on, somehow,
it's pathetic.
It's pathetic. If you somehow can manage to find an Athletics game, they're damn sure not going to be on national TV. But if you can somehow find a picture or a stream of an Athletics home game, I mean, if you feel sorry about your life, go watch the Athletics. I mean, it could be worse. It could be way worse.
Yeah. It's not good. And I mean, to your point about the players too, like how are they supposed to play and deliver? I mean, I'm sure it's on their mind, but like some of them live there. then they're like, all right, now I gotta go to Vegas. Like it's just, yeah. I mean, look, well, we'll see what happens. Well, you know us. We'll be back here talking about, wherever they end up. But I think me mentally, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just like, I kind of want to see a baseball team go to Vegas. I do.
Yeah.
Then all they're missing is an NBA team. I know they have the aces for the WNBA, but it's going to be an NBA team moving there. Who knows?
I would venture to think in the next 10 years we'll get an NBA team. But if they do go, I hope, and I kind of want this to happen for every team that decides to leave, especially like the Oakland Athletics have been there for so long. Like I kind of wish the Raiders did this, but the Raiders had precedence from leaving LA the first time to going to Oakland. But change your name, just change everything. Then if you're going to leave, change
just
everything.
About to ask you that. I'm like, would you keep Athletics or would you change the name? I would personally change the name.
I'd change everything. Just change it, man. Just let Oakland have, because that way, if an owner somewhere or baseball decides to add some more expansion teams, you can revisit the Oakland Athletics. Much like the Seattle Supersonics, right? Like, you keep that alive. The Supersonics left; they became the Thunder. So now the Supersonics can technically come back if they wanted to. Well, not if they want to, but if the NBA can add enough teams so they can come back. And Seattle is on the short list for expansion. They just have to come up with 4 other teams to even out the divisions. But if I'm a big fan of that. Again, if you've been there for a long time and you haven't changed cities, the Golden State Warriors, they were always the Golden State. Well, not always, but for modern era, they were the Golden State Warriors. Even though they were in Oakland, it didn't change when they moved up, moved over to San Francisco. Just whatever. But the Oakland Athletics, man, as far as I know, they've always been the Oakland Athletics, have they not? Like, if you're going to go to Vegas, just be a new team. I know it's the same owner. You'll have ownership to the name that incentivizes him, right?
Yeah.
Because if another owner wants and expansion comes, you can sell him, make whatever money you're about to lose moving to Vegas because you're going to lose some money. You can make that back. Hopefully he just sells the team. That's what I want him to do. Sell the team. If you look, that's the only fans that are there are the fans that have signs that says Fisher sucks. Sell the team, jackass. Like that's all that's all they want. And selling the team's not going to save them, but But
at least it'll rid them. It'll wash them clean of of their past, to say the least.
Go Commanders. Yeah, come on, change that name.
Yeah, Commanders too. Yeah.
Hey, and listen, Bert, I know we were on this show, and you may not like this, what I'm about to say. Change it back to the Redskins.
No.
The guy, they're okay with it, man. They're okay with it. I don't know what to tell you. The tribe was okay with it, so fuck it. There's no good names. There's none. I
didn't mind Red Wolves. I thought that was cool, but
that was cool.
Yeah.
And maybe they can do that. I know when they were going through that process, they quickly eliminated Red Wolves because of some college in Arkansas.
Oh, really?
Red Wolves or some college team already has. Who cares, bro? Yeah. Like you know how many Eagles there are.
I was gonna say,
you know how many Cowboys. Hey, Oklahoma State Cowboys. You see Jerry Jones out here like, oh no, I gotta change the name. Like no. Like fuck y'all, man. Just Red Wolves. I thought Red Wolves was cool. I like Red Hogs. I like
Red Hogs. Yeah,
I thought Red Hogs was cool. They already have the pig mascot. Just do the Red Hogs. That's a cool. Yeah. And you could do an airplane with that. You can do. And you could do the pig. Like I get, and then the Hogs, their offensive line that won that Super Bowl. That's what they called them. That it's cool. It's such a perfect name. And it's different. You know what I mean? Like it's different. I like that. Red Hogs is cool. It should be Red something though. I'm this Commander shit that they tried. The Washington football team.
They may have to pick again, even though the individual who copyrighted or trademarked a portion of that name is saying he's not going to stand in the way. And I'm sitting here like, then why? Then why even bother doing it? Then just give them the name and call it a day. Like why?
He wants some money. Because the same reason he wants the money. I don't.
He does. I mean, get that bread. Yeah.
How do you play, man? Good for you, man. Dan Snyder's not there. I have to imagine this was his last middle finger to everybody. Like, I'm going to pick the worst possible name. and make you guys, knowing that he was just buying his time. He knew eventually he was either going to get voted out or they were going to force him out, and he would have had to sell the team. And so I think he purposely was like, yeah, Commanders. Hey, here's a list of names that we're thinking about. Vote on which one you like. And he was like, I'm going to pick not the one with the most votes, the one with the least votes.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
And then he looked at the trademark list too, and he's like, this could be an issue for them in the future. You know what? Let's go back and do this. Yeah.
Dan Snyder, if you were smart enough to get away with nude calendars of your cheerleaders, I'm pretty sure you're smart enough to come up with this diabolical plan.
He wasn't even smart enough to get away with that. I mean,
It's this guy. Shout out. We have a friend, Jamie, but she goes by James. She used to work for Washington.
Oh yeah.
And she would tell us horror stories. She tells me like this guy was such a jackass, man.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just him; it was all his underlings, nonsensical douchebag yes men that just were there to collect paychecks and went along with anything Dan Snyder said. She said he's just whatever you read about him or whatever you hear other people say about him is 100%. You know, sometimes you hear bad things and it's usually people's experiences. So they kind of embellish how awful somebody is. And you're like, oh, I guess this guy's pretty bad. No. She said he is exactly what they say he is.
I see it. I totally see it. I've never really cared for him as an owner. I don't even know the guy, but it just, you can just tell he's that dude.
Yeah. But good riddance to him. We don't want to never see you again. All right, Bert. Stanley Cup finals are set somehow through the grace of God. The Florida Panthers, who made it being a bottom of the below league average of defense and goals, right? Beat Boston, probably the greatest regular season team of all time. Actually are, right? Statistically were. And that was basically the beginning of this magical run, right? To me, handled everybody else fairly easily, right? Like not really a challenge.
I mean, Toronto 4-1, and then unfortunate sweep of the Canes, right? So and they went on a tear after that 7 game, and that's even with the rest they got in between the Toronto series and the Hurricane series too. And I think I mentioned on last week's show, I thought for sure, because Carolina actually wrapped up. We were on last Thursday. They wrapped up last Thursday shortly after. But I would have thought the rest would have done them in between those series. But no, they came out and absolutely handled business. Now, they will have well over a week off before the final start on Saturday.
Yeah.
Vegas just wrapped up last night. So they'll have, at least 5 days off or so, 4.5. So they have obviously the shorter turnaround. And with me, it's always a thought of, when you have a team that hot, is the rest going to mess them up? Because when you're going that quickly and you're constantly and you're in it both mentally and physically, if you don't keep them active, if you don't keep that, especially that hunger alive, man, that could be quite damaging. The second you stop playing, some of those guys aren't used to playing this late in the season too, because it's a battle just to get to the final. So you got to keep those dogs ready. I will say, and you alluded to this pick before, I think what you were going to say, and I'm going to go against you. I see Panthers in 6 here. Wow. I do. I think there's something to this team, and partly because of the underdog for me. It's also partly because I think they have the better goaltending in Bobrovsky. But there's something about that beast of a player, Matthew Tkachuk, that is just it. He has the locker room. He has the leadership. That whole team is around him. I think it's there. Now, nothing against Vegas. They have a stacked team as well. And they absolutely handled Dallas. I think that game went 2 more than it should have. But Dallas put up a really good fight, at least for game, 4 and 5. Last night's game, they got blown out 6-0. So it's like, why even show up? Similar to my Rangers in the first round. But I like Vegas. I just think that it's South Florida's time to shine for hockey. And if I'm playing, this is what makes it difficult. When I'm looking at fan bases and who wants it more, who deserves it more, South Florida team where attendance has been washing. I'm just thinking about those loyal fans that have showed up year after year, and they get a taste of it in '96 when the Panthers are in the final and they lose. And here we are almost, 30 years later or so. They have this chance again with arguably, a similar ranked team. Or is it the Vegas fan base? The ones that with open arms adopted the Golden Knights as their team. They've made it so. Their attendance has been there. They're cheering them on. They're pumped. This is their second finals appearance in the past 6 years, which is huge. No other new franchise has done this before. So they only the franchise that has done this before, I think within their first 8 seasons, was actually the Oilers. And then they ended up winning. I think this was in '88, and with the help of a kid named Wayne Gretzky. But for me, I'm going back to it. I honestly think it's the Panthers. I think they have what it takes. They have the depth. They have the goaltending. They have a great defense with a really good no quit style offense, and playing through and through. It's going to be tough. That's why I think it's going to be 6 and not anything less than that. It could go 7. I don't see it going 7. I think they're back in home ice in Florida when they win it for 6.
You mentioned Kachuk, and I see your Kachuk, baby, and I raise you a Jake Eichel. Okay.
Yeah. Jack Eichel. Yeah.
Jack Eichel. Sorry.
Jack.
Now, this has got to drive Buffalo Sabres fans crazy for 2 reasons.
Totally.
One, Jack Eichel, all of a sudden, never lost a playoff series, by the way. Shout out to him. The fact that Buffalo has had the Sabres for 50 years and have only made it to the NHL finals 3 times. The Vegas Golden Knights, led by Mr. Jack Eichel, have been to the finals twice in 6 years. And so it's crazy. So this is why I feel like Vegas deserves it more. It's harder to make a expansion team relevant. It's harder to start, right? Starting, you have to. There's a lot that goes into it, right? You have 3 years of any business that you start where you're not making money, you're not paying dividends. Vegas bucked that trend and started being successful first, early. Made that 3 years really a 2-year thing before they started really making money. Seattle stumbled out the gate, but they're heading in the right direction. This has been a great year for expansion teams, especially, we talked about the Las Vegas Aces in the NBA, been around 4 or 5 years, been really good. I mean, they're WNBA champions. So this has been a really good stretch for expansion teams. Like you mentioned, Florida, not especially South Florida, not really a big sports city. It just happens that everything's happening this year for them, not just in professional sports, but in college and amateur sports. But again, abysmal fair weather fans showing up, or not showing up in this case. All of a sudden it's Florida. Hey, the Ice Cats, man, already needed to do it, man. No, you don't deserve jack shit. Them Vegas Golden Knights have been down since day one. Granted, day one was 6 years ago. My son was just born, but here they are from day one. Hey, we're in for the long haul. We know this is an expansion team. We know the history of expansion teams, but we're going to ride with this squad because they're ours. And look at them now. Look at Vegas. Shiny, beautiful uniforms, great branding.
Oof, yeah. Oh, when they do the gold helmets and there's
that's great.
Just
I didn't even like their gold jersey they unleashed this year when I saw the pictures, but when I watched them in real time, I said it's nice. It's super nice. I didn't like them when they first said, "Hey, we're gonna have all gold alternate jerseys." I was like, that's a little bit too much gold. Nope. The perfect amount of gold for me, baby. Matter of fact, if they win, and I expect them to win, not in 6 games, 5. I'll give Florida some credit.
Okay.
I'll give them 5 games. Listen, magical runs, great. Vegas all season, Bert. Top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense. Yes, hard work beats skill every time. But you know when hard work doesn't beat skill? when the skilled players also
yeah.
have hard work. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't beat skills and hard work when they work together. And that's what Vegas has done since their inception, really. I mean, not like they're not a bunch. We look at teams like Edmonton, right? Who have great players, great skill players, and they just can't put it together. But outside of Jake Eichel, these are just, scrap draft players. Jack Eichel, I'm sorry. Scrap drafted players and free agents that they kind of just picked up, and they're just kind of figuring out. Coached very well. The team plays together. They're not, so not only are they skilled, they have a good mix, and they work hard. They have to, because they're carrying the weight of being a city's best team. When can you say that about a multi-team city who has at least 3 of the major sports in there, or 2, that the hockey team is the best of the bunch? Like, that's what other team can say that? Maybe the Rangers right now, but unless if you're going to count Buffalo,
New York is tough because you have the Yankees, Mets, you can do the Giants, Jets,
right? So Yankees, right?
Mets.
There's a lot of competition.
There's a lot of competition through and through,
and so you can't really say that about other teams.
No, I mean, my mind jumps to. I mean, at one point, Chicago certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Detroit,
not anytime recently.
Detroit in the 90s.
Okay, yeah. But no.
But think about how long ago that was for both teams, right? So it's just pretty amazing to see. Like I said, Florida's run. I don't want to say fluky. That's not the word I want to use. I want the Panthers fans to get mad at me. I'm not going to say fluky. They just got hot at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Much like the Denver and Miami compare. Denver's just been consistently good since opening day. Same thing with Vegas, man. They've just been top 5 since the start of the season. That's hard to overcome just because you're on a hot streak. And listen, 8th seeds, Miami, Florida Panthers, you can shock me. You can. You have the talent, obviously, because you're in the finals. But at the end of the day, the dream, you have to wake up from the dream. Eventually, you've beaten the best, but now another team not only has beaten the best, they are the best. Literally the best teams each team has played in the playoffs, right? Easily. The Knights are the best team that the Panthers have faced, in these playoffs, because even though Boston was a great regular season team, they played like fucking shit in the playoffs. Like, that's just the way it is. That's why they lost. They didn't play well. I don't know if they just were overlooking Florida. The Knicks are the Knicks, but they beat the Bucks and the Celtics, who had the 2 best records in the NBA in terms of the Miami Heat. So, but Denver is just a different monster to me.
Yeah. All right. So you got Vegas in 5. I have Panthers in 6. Let's see what happens Saturday. I guess they start Saturday. They probably do Saturday, Monday. And then in Vegas, of course, it's where they're starting off, and then they'll go right back home to Florida, and let's see what comes of it. So by this time next week, we should at least have an idea of what way the pendulum is swinging on this one. Yeah.
Can't wait for the Vegas Knights to be up 2-0 so I can talk shit to my buddy Bert here.
Hey, you know what they say? It's not a series until the away team wins a game.
That's true. And that means we're not going to have a series because the away team is not going to win. The Panthers are not going to win no games. Do you have a game ball to give out?
Yeah, I'm going back to, we already spoke about him. I mean, you can't ignore, as much as Jimmy Butler did, you cannot ignore Caleb Martin's 135 points throughout, semifinal or final run is just, it's NBA history is what it comes down to. And it's fantastic. And for, an undrafted player to do that and make the impact is just, we've been talking about underdogs this whole time. Let's talk about unsung heroes, undrafted players, the dudes that put in that grind, they put in that work, and they're out there. So game ball definitely goes to Caleb Martin.
Shout out to you. My game ball is going to Nick Nurse, freshly hired coach for my Philadelphia 76ers. It's about time we did something right. I mean, he was the best coach available. I do think that he's the type of person that is going to push Joel Embiid to be the best version of himself. He demands excellence from all his players. I'm a little nervous. His coaching style is a bit aggressive. I don't know how that's going to come across, but I think the Sixers, the way these last couple of years have been, need that attitude adjustment. I think they will benefit from somebody like Nick Nurse, who defensively is a genius. I think the one thing he's going to have to do is make sure that his coaching staff around him can pick up the slack on the offensive side. But I do think, I know a lot of fans want Tobias Harris traded. I know his contract is crazy, but his contract technically is untradeable. Not technically, but he only has a few years left. And honestly, it's not going to mess up the cap all that bad. And the cap's going to go up. My thought process on trading Tobias Harris is, you're going to get 2 guys to 3 guys. One of them may not play to match his production to do what? Like to make the contract situation seem better. Tobias Harris is a good player. I just don't think Doc Rivers put him in a good position to succeed. He's had to do a lot of adjusting. I think he's a Nick Nurse type guy, and I think he will unlock not only Tobias Harris, but he will also unlock Tyrese Maxey, because I do believe James Harden is going to leave anyway. And obviously Joel Embiid. Now it's up to him to fill out the rest of the roster. And if James Harden leaves, we'll have a lot of money to do that. So shout out to Nick Nurse. Thank you for coming to Philly. You chose Philly over Phoenix, which is hard because Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are there, and you chose our city. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So me and Bert will be back next week, but you can catch us on Stuff About Sports on Instagram at Stuff About Sports, the www.giveusashot.network, where you can catch all of us, the Divide Live Friday nights, Fox Sports The Gambler, Go Talk with Marcus, JT and the Don, and the High Spot podcast. All of us are at Give Us a Shot on Instagram and Give Us a Shot Network on YouTube. So, Vegas Golden Knights.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
And the Florida Panthers.
Oh, don't you dare.
All right, y'all. Be good.